I am a massive consumer of books. I read constantly. There's some of my collection, and I listen to even more than I read. I don't read as much as I guess the suggested reading. But what I do is I listen to massive amounts of audiobooks, and I'm always looking for great books, and I get recommended a lot of books by a lot of people. And my closest tribe knows that I'm always exploring new knowledge and new wisdom, and looking for that next nugget that's going to that's going to turn into a podcast episode, or that's going to that I can share to enrich the lives of the people that I love and serve. And they're constantly giving me new titles and new insights, and I can't, I don't I don't read all of them that I'm given, but every once in a while somebody turns me on to a teacher, or to a book, or to maybe just a podcast, and it lights my soul on fire. And I get a lot of joy from sharing with you guys, and with people that I'm surrounded by, the things that I'm like, the nuggets that are really ringing true for me. And today I want to do that. I want to do that. And there's a book that I recently read, and I may have mentioned it on episodes before, I'm not sure, but there's a book that I read. It's called Be Your Future Self Now. Now, this book, it's some of this stuff. Have you ever read a book and there's nothing new really in the book, but it's just packaged and stated in a certain way that just clicks with you and just resonates with you, and like, you can, at that moment, you can start to deploy that new knowledge, or not that new knowledge, but the knowledge that was in the book that's not new, but it was stated and presented in a way that's, I don't know, that's applicable, that has a high, utilitarian value. And this book was just that for me. And there's nothing new under the sun. I mean, if you look at what teachers are teaching, we all learn from each other, and we all teach, from thousands of years of history. So I don't want to say there's anything new under the sun, but sometimes somebody says something in just that perfect way that connects with your soul and moves the needle in your life, right? And how you see the world. Dr. Benjamin Hardy in this book, and his name's Dr. Benjamin Hardy, not Darren Hardy, but Dr. Benjamin Hardy. He said something in this book, and it's a sentence that unlocked, like, and unleashed awesomeness for me. And before I tell you what that line is, I want to set this up. So there's a common approach, a common teaching, a common practice in the coaching space. And it helps people understand how to create higher level circumstances and how to create higher level order in their life. So let me first say, we, on all the, a lot of the podcast episodes that I've already shared with you, I talk about the power of creating a vision in your life. Clarity is super, super critical. Listen, get to work on creating a vision for your life. And this vision for your life isn't a set of goals. So many times I ask people if they have a vision for their life, and they'll say yes, and then they give me a list of goals. That's not what a vision for your life is. A vision for your life literally paints a picture. It's a work of art. It paints a picture, visuals. It sets the mood. It sets the tone for this life that you're creating. It's like you've sat down with a piece of canvas, and you've sculpted your life, and you can literally, through your vision, you can see it, and you can feel it, and you can experience that future life through reading this vision. There are some nuggets and goals in there, but a vision for your life gives you a direction of the quality of life that you're looking to create. How you want to wake up every day. What do you want to feel in your body? How do you want to experience your relationships? What do you want to feel? You want to feel loved, and you want to feel valuable, and you want to feel significant, and you want to be impactful in the world, and you want to feel like you're a value add to society, and you want to positively impact your clients. And it's more than just, I want to make X number of dollars. I want to have a new car. I want to, that's not a vision. That's, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of goals, but I am a huge fan of creating a vision for your life, a picture, painting a picture of where your life is headed. So listen, if you haven't done that, go to the website, innerwealthglobal.com, and on the front page there's a free mini course called Choose Your Destiny. Sign up for that free mini course, and inside of that course is a PDF that helps you get started. And there's a copy of my vision in there, an old vision of mine. But go in there, get started on the process of creating a vision for your life. All right. It's really powerful, important work. If you don't know where you're headed, you're going to keep living the same circumstances over and over. So listen, in Becoming Your Future Self Now, just like many other works of art and books and powerful books and knowledge, contents of knowledge, Dr. Benjamin Hardy talks about the value and the power of having a vision for your life, not just goals, but having a vision for your life. I'm going to say this is my position. This isn't Dr. Benjamin Hardy's position. But if the quality of your life isn't doubling every 3 years or doubling every 4 or 5 years, then you're leaving a lot on the table. And I'm not just talking about your financial state. I'm talking about how you experience life and the quality of your life. My life is the quality of my life, how I feel on a daily basis, how much freedom I have in my life is vastly different than just 5 years ago and 6 years ago and 7 years ago. Vastly different, doubled, maybe even tripled over that time. But listen, go create a vision for your life. It'll change everything. It'll change the way you experience. And if you don't, it's easy to know what you don't want, but it's like it's difficult to know what you want. So get really, really clear, because when you start to get clear about what you want, it starts to show up. But listen, we're going to take that, and I want to add another step. And this was spoken in, I guess, added some color and some clarity by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. But I do know this is a common coaching practice. Who you are right now, what you believe, what you think, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about life, how you interact with life, how you're showing up, all of these, your habits, all of these things, who you are right now cannot create that vision. Because if this version of you could have created that vision, then you would have done it already. This version of you, as you sit and as you listen to this podcast episode, this version of you right now created the circumstances that you have right now in your wealth, in your health, in your relationships, in the impact that you have. This version of you created these circumstances. This version of you cannot create your future circumstances. Some part of you, maybe all of you, has to die and something else be reborn at a higher level, at an upgraded level, in order to upgrade your circumstances. It's important to understand that. The process of growth is about parts of you dying off so that others can be reborn. Okay? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take a look at your vision. And after you've created it, take some time and look at that vision. And I want you to imagine that the version of you that created that life, how does that version of you wake up and feel? And what do they believe is possible? What do they believe is true? What do they think? How do they think? How do they feel? How do they relate with the world? What choices do they make? Do they eat shit, or do they eat healthy nutrition? Do they exercise, or are they apathetic, right? What version of you created that vision? What What attributes are present in that version of you that aren't present in this version of you? How does that person show up? There's a gap, there's a delta, there's a difference between this version and that version. And it's really important. It's really critical. If you really want to create, and if you want to double your circumstances, if you want to double your quality of life every 3 to 5 years, you've got to get really clear about who is the person that can do that. Because it's not you. If it was you, you would have done that. And get really honest about with yourself, about yourself, and the gap between here and there. The hardest thing for a human being to do is to be radically honest with themselves. But get really clear about what version of you can create or even has already created that life. Cool? Now, here's where this line comes into play, okay? The book is titled Become Your Future Self Now. Now, this is about waking up every day and making decisions as that future self. This book is about not waiting until you have the circumstances to be that person, but start showing up and start becoming and start being and start choosing and start thinking and start feeling and start acting and start believing like that future version that you've just designed. Because that is the real you. You already know who you are at the highest level. It's waking up as that person. It's when you go to your pantry for a snack, it's choosing a snack as that person. For example, there was one day this past week, that I was sitting on my outside patio. I've got a beautiful gazebo outside, and I sit under the patio in the summer. Sit under the gazebo on my patio, and I knew it was time for a run, but I didn't want to go for a run. And what I thought to myself was, this version of me doesn't want to go for a run. What would my future version of myself do? And in that moment, when I put myself in the place of the future version of myself, I easily got up off the couch, my patio, and I went for a run. And I ran as my future self. It might sound like a bunch of gibberish and hogwash and a bunch of woo-woo, but this version of you created these circumstances. This version of you is not going to create your new circumstances. Something has to evolve in you. Something has to grow. Something has to develop in you that hasn't taken root yet. And it's up to you to make it take root. Okay? So choose, act, behave, and become that future self now. Now, here's where this got really, really cool. All right? So the future version of me is on huge stages, speaking to large crowds about creating such an exceptional life that you get excited just to wake up every day. And I'm helping them understand that clarity and certainty and commitment can create anything in this world. And that when you go all in, it's a done deal. And the evidence just starts to show up. I'm on huge stages, and I'm moving the needle in the lives of people all around the world. And I'm getting phone calls, and I'm getting requests to come and speak, and I'm getting paid to be on people's stages in large quantities. And financial issues have completely evaporated from my life. And my content is being consumed because it makes a positive, impactful difference in the lives of people. And my wife and I are traveling around the world to go and do what we do, and that's to empower people to move into a higher quality of life. That's the future version of me. And there's things that guy will say that maybe this guy is a little timid to say. There's choices that guy, that version of Mike, would make that this guy hasn't fully grown the courage to do. And this is raw and vulnerable truth. and it's true for you too. There's qualities that have not grown and developed in me that are required for me to be at that level. And here's what Dr. Benjamin Hardy said. He said, be that person now and make the choices they make, ask the questions that you wouldn't ask. And here's the line. It's better to fail as your future self than it is to succeed as your current self. Woo. When I heard that line for the first time, and I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. It packaged a whole lot of books that I've read, and a lot of knowledge and a lot of wisdom and a lot of insight and a lot of coaching that I've received and coaching that I've given and workshops that I've gone to. And it's summed a lot of everything that I've learned into one powerful sentence. It's better to fail as your future self than it is to succeed as your current self. And the truth in this is, if you really look at your life, when it hasn't moved forward, it's because you've chosen to succeed at the same things that you're doing now, instead of immersing yourself in new experiences, in new adventures, in new environments where you're not quite sure if you're competent, if you're capable, if you can succeed. But in order to become that future self, you need to grow into the person capable of creating those circumstances. And that requires, in some cases, it requires you to fail so you can learn what you need to learn, so that you can learn how to succeed as your future self. Can you feel the magnitude of that statement? Fail as your future self instead of succeed as your current self. Well, there are things in your life right now that have created your current circumstances, your current level of love and your relationships, a current level of intimacy, your current levels of wealth and your income, maybe a job, maybe a career, maybe a business. There's certain things that you can succeed at, which professionally you might be playing it safe in certain arenas. There's certain decisions that you're making, and certain good decisions maybe that you're making with your health, and you can succeed there. And you're not willing to get uncomfortable. Maybe you haven't been willing to get uncomfortable in all of these areas by doing something that in alignment with your future vision, your future life. And sometimes you need to fail before you can learn what you need to learn, so that you can learn how to succeed. I remember years ago, I think it was like back in the 90s, when I really started watching hockey. And right now I live right outside of St. Louis, Missouri, and in St. Charles, Missouri. And we have the St. Louis Blues, and they won the Stanley Cup a couple years ago. Now, when I started following hockey years and years ago, I was a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. So I was from the East Coast. I was from Baltimore. And for whatever reason, I decided to like the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I started watching the hockey, and I was over in Okinawa, Japan. And hockey came on early in the morning, because it was like, the time change and stuff like that. So every Saturday morning I could wake up and watch a hockey game. It was pretty cool. And what I remember about hockey from that time, and in that time, is it almost seemed to me what the pattern was: a team went to the Stanley Cup Finals and they failed, they lost, and then the next year they would win. Or maybe they would get into the playoffs and they would lose, and then the next year they would advance. It's almost like they learned how to succeed. you get what you don't want so you can modify and pivot and adjust, make corrections so that you can succeed. And sometimes without failing as your future self, you struggle to become that future version of yourself. And I think Dr. Benjamin Hardy sums this thing up so beautifully in the book, Become Your Future Self Now. It's better to fail as your future self than it is to succeed as your current self. Because when you fail as your future self, you're going to grow and you're going to evolve. And that's when your life's going to flourish. And that's when you can change the quality of life, and you can double and you can multiply your quality of life every 3 to 5 years. That's an important element. People who live the same circumstances throughout their entire life are unwilling to fail. And if you're unwilling to fail, you're really unwilling to succeed. Failure is closely tied to luck. One creates the other. Or failure is closely tied to success. One creates the other. Failure creates success. And risk creates luck. Risk creates luck. It's the people that take risk that get lucky. No, risk and luck are like two sides of the same coin, just like success and failure are two sides of the same coin. In order to succeed, you must learn to fail. And in order to get lucky, you must take risks that most people won't. Guys, I hope that nugget and that insight moved you as much as it moved me. And at a minimum, go grab Dr. Benjamin Hardy's book, Become Your Future Self Now. And that thing is already, there were great nuggets in there. This stuff is not, it's not new. There's nothing new under the sun, but it's packaged in a way that's beautiful and can and will move the needle in your life. And I know it's already moved the needle in my life.